Well, it's time now for a look at the latest business news, and we're starting with the reaction on the markets to the latest COVID lockdowns in China. Our business editor, Stephen Carroll, is here with more.
Erin, there are almost 30 million people in China now subject to COVID-19 lockdown measures, including some places that are key economic hubs for the country. The list includes the technology hub of Shenzhen, where major manufacturers like Foxconn have had to suspend operations. Now, all of this is creating concern about growth in the world's second largest economy. That's adding to the jitters over the war in Ukraine, of course. The result, another day of sharp falls on the Chinese markets today. Shanghai down almost 5% at the end of trading there. The Hang Seng and Hong Kong down by 5.5%. as well. This sell-off happening despite new data being published by China today on factory output and retail sales. They came in better than expected, but investors clearly very worried about what impact these lockdowns would have on the Chinese economy. European shares also starting the day in the red at the beginning of trading. Mining companies are among those seeing the biggest falls. That's, of course, a sector with major exposure to China. We've got falls across London, Paris and Frankfurt at the start of trading there as well. We're also keeping an eye on the price of oil for you today, and that's continuing to fall to its lowest level in around 2 weeks. And the China story is playing a part here as well, with fears over the demand for oil being potentially lower as a result of these lockdowns and their impact on industry. We've seen oil prices push down further. WTI trading $97.20 a barrel. Brent crude just over $100 a barrel now. We're looking at levels on the oil markets not seen since just before Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, meanwhile, here in France, the cost of fuel hit a record high. Official figures for last week show that diesel prices were an average of €2.14 a litre across France. That's up 25 cents in just 1 week. Unleaded petrol, meanwhile, selling for an average of €2.03. That's up sharply as well. Now, the cost of diesel in particular has been hit by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. France imports around a quarter of this fuel from Russia. Prices did start to come down over the weekend. They're expected to fall further when a government rebate comes into force on April 1st. Well, the war in Ukraine is impacting supplies of all kinds of industries. The car maker Volkswagen has suspended production at some factories in Germany because of a lack of parts that are normally shipped from Ukraine. This, as the company is warning, the Russian invasion could have a greater impact on its business than the pandemic. Catherine Viette reports.
At this Volkswagen factory in northern Germany, the production lines are at a standstill. The pause is for at least a week, but with the war raging in Ukraine, the temporary halt could be extended. The cause, essential parts produced in Ukraine are currently unavailable.
Es ist nun mal so, wenn Sie ein globaler Automobilhersteller sind, werden die Teile weltweit eingekauft. Das ist dann halt so, dass es passiert. Das kann aber jeden Tag auch auf einer anderen Seite dieser Erde passieren.
Volkswagen works with more than a dozen Ukrainian suppliers who mainly produce the wiring systems which connect all the electronic components like taillights inside cars. No vehicle can operate without this system. Its absence shuts down assembly lines. And Volkswagen isn't the only German automaker impacted by the war. Audi and BMW have also had to temporarily halt production at several of their factories.
Wenn sich die Krise, so wie es im Moment aussieht, weiter entwickelt, muss es Verlagerungen dieser Zulieferer geben in andere Regionen. Das bedeutet, dass man monatelang mit Knappheiten bei diesen fehlenden Teilen.
The war in Ukraine has also caused prices for certain metals to skyrocket, including aluminum needed for auto frames and nickel used for making electric car batteries. The head of Volkswagen warned that supply disruptions due to the war could be worse for the automotive industry than the pandemic.
Argentina is suspending exports of soybean flour and oil. The country is the world's largest exporter of those two soy products. They make 30% of the country's overall exports in 2021. This move is coming amid expectations that the government is set to increase taxes. Analysts expect the suspension to be temporary, but it comes at a time that food supplies around the world have been disrupted because of the war in Ukraine. Finally, for me, there's also been disruption, more global disruption to flight paths from the war. Korean Air is the latest airline to suspend its passenger and cargo services to and from Moscow and Vladivostok. They're also rerouting their flights to Europe and North America that crossed Russian airspace. It's going to add up to 2 hours and 45 minutes to flight times. Erin.
Stephen Carroll, thank you very much for that business update.